We see all these signs around New York City and a lot of other cities and even some rural areas. They sort of have that yellow background, the yellow and black kind of color scheme, and then that universal radiation symbol on it, and it says fallout shelter. And we get this question a lot: what are these fallout shelters? And unfortunately, the first answer is they're a relic of the Cold War, and they largely just don't exist anymore. So back, particularly under the Kennedy administration, there was a move to create a national program of public fallout shelters. There would be inspections. In New York City, Governor Rockefeller was a big proponent of this. I've seen numbers of well over 18,000 fallout shelters that were registered that could house over 11 million New Yorkers at the time, with plans for even more. There were some supplies that were provided by the military as part of this program, and so you would have like meals ready to eat, you know, those sort of meals prepackaged that last. They don't last forever, but they last a long time. First aid kits, but not like the Band-Aid and some Neosporin that many of us have in our own personal first aid kits, but a little more robust than that. You'd want to see some cots or some sort of sleeping arrangements in these, and you'd want to see some sort of air filtration system. The shelters themselves were all over the map. Some were a little cleaner, a little more spacious. I've heard stories of some that had rats and raw sewage dripping down because, again, you're in basements of old buildings. It's a very interesting part of our history, but it was never quite at the level of sophistication that maybe the signs lead you to believe. The shelters were largely moved away from because as the nuclear weapons became larger and larger, they just weren't practical. We started to see scenarios where entire cities would just be leveled. Fallout wouldn't be a consideration because everyone would already be dead. The largest Soviet weapon in the Soviet Union was around 50 megatons. So that'd be about 50,000 kilotons. That would look like this from the initial blast. So fallout shelters aren't going to do much for you there. Ironically, they're probably more appropriate now than they were back then, because the size of the weapons that we're looking at from terrorist organizations, and at least until the recent thermonuclear tests of North Korea, but the weapons they had tested prior to that, we're looking at these smaller 10, 15, 20 kiloton devices. But then there's the question of the cost and the management, and can you save more lives through education and by helping people understand how they can shelter in place in their buildings where they already are. In fact, some of the modeling that we've seen suggests that you could save hundreds of thousands of lives, if not more, in certain scenarios by having people appropriately shelter in place rather than trying to evacuate during the fallout.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.